getting back into this part two of two when it comes to charcoal rendering on a simple still life. The main thing that I want you guys to see here with this video in particular, well, it's a couple things. So first of all, I want to mention that this is nowhere near going to be a totally finished drawing in the end, and definitely don't think of it that way. So what I really want you guys to get out of this is kind of the working method, the working process, and this could keep going on forever. But even from the start to even where we are now in this kind of intermediate, kind of medium phase of the drawing, notice that as I'm working, I'm trying to bounce around to all the main components of the drawing. So I'm trying not to pigeonhole myself into one particular detail area, but thinking about kind of spreading the love out to the apples, the mug, cast shadows, background, kind of all together. And if you work this way, things are going to feel much less disjointed and more cohesive. And that's one of the biggest things you see in early kind of beginning drawings is a disjointed approach where every little piece looks great by itself, but it doesn't quite work together as a whole. And that's what we're trying not to do here. We want to make a more holistic approach if we can. So I'm going to stop talking and let you just kind of watch the working process. All right. Coming along, guys. Getting closer and closer here. Still lots to address. If you notice, every time I make one large change or even minor change, five new potential kind of changes open up for me. And that's kind of the nature of the beast with a drawing like this. So I've been at this for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, maybe total. Seems like less because I've been speeding up my drawing. But I'd say I'm getting there. I'm starting to make this feel like a whole design. And keep in mind, there's only one, two, three objects and a background, and already that's a lot of things to juggle. Imagine a 7 object still life or a 20 object still life. You can really lose some time rendering these things out. And when I say render, I haven't even begun to render the fine detail of textures and stems, little things in here. This is all still big picture stuff. So keep in mind just how much time you can really develop and how slow of a process this is. And I've been doing this for a while, and it still takes me a while or a long time as I'm developing. So keep that in mind for yourselves. If you're new to this, it's not going to come out beautifully the first time, and it's also going to take you, even longer than it's taking me right here. So don't get frustrated if you feel like you're losing hours. Logging in a lot of time onto these. It's kind of just the nature of the beast in the beginning. Have some patience and kind of enjoy the process and experiment as you go. I'm going to keep working just a minute longer. I'll show you what it'll look like when I start to really crisp up some edges and maybe add a bit of detail just to pull this thing together a little bit more. All right, guys. A few last things. As I mentioned, I'm going to tidy up a couple things here. And what I'm going to be working on is really going to bring, oh no, spelling, Taylor, really bring into the forefront this idea of edge and edge quality. So sometimes this will be kind of a section of your rubrics when I'm grading edge quality. And some people say, well, what does that mean when you're talking about the quality of the edges? So here's what I mean by that. Right now, my edges are all a little washy and wispy, and I actually like that look. I think that's a good look. It's a little impressionistic or loose. But if I really want to tidy some things up and say, let me get specific, that's what I'm talking about when I say we need a variety of edges. So right now, a lot of softer edges. How do I bring in some tightness and some crisp edge work in here? So this is where maybe your retractable eraser will come into play, that really fine detail eraser. So let's look at one key spot, which would be the combination of where the apple and the mug touch. So the apple tucks behind this white mug. Apple is dark, mug is light. My edge right now is pretty good, But what I'm going to do is with a really sharp charcoal pencil, I'm going to come in here and reline the top edge of that apple. So I don't really want a dark, definite line. What I want to do is clean up the edge between mug and apple. And so I start with a line, but now I'm fading and blending a little bit of darkness up into the apple. I'm realizing just how light and wispy I got with the apple. I was being kind of a little hesitant and tentative in the beginning of this drawing. Okay, there we go. So already it feels a little more definite right here. Look at how sharp that edge is compared to the wispiness over here, which I'll have to tidy up later too. Now to bring that even further, what I can do if I really want to make this pop is I'm going to use that fine point eraser. This is a white rubber eraser, which works really well. I'm going to blow away some of that kind of eraser poop. And look at how clean and bold that edge is between mug and apple. It really brings our eyes to that area. And so I can go over here and kind of tidy up an edge too. What about the corner of this mug? Sure, I could do that. Now you want to be careful. I don't want to darken too much around this because it's going to feel too heavily like an outline. So all I'm doing is very lightly rendering in a little extra background touch up over here. And then I'm going to erase out the edge of the mug. So already that mug feels a little more like it pops right there in the corner. So that's the kind of thing where in a few key areas we can start to clean up and sharpen up edges. Now you don't want to do this to everything equally. That would make it look like when we were doing line work back when I used to talk about coloring book lines. We don't want coloring book lines where everything's exactly the same. We want things to have a variety. So the edge is a little softer up here where I kind of lose the edge of the apple in the softness of this fabric, but then as it wraps back around, I see it pop and darken up again, maybe in this corner. So see how that edge is a little cleaner? I lose it, and then it pops back harsh again over here. That's the kind of variety you want to see in a good value drawing. And then once again, we have some kind of looseness and lightness in the middle, but then we get another really clear, bold pop when we get to that stem. So already that top apple and the combo of the apple to the mug are looking a lot more clear, distinctive. We could do the same thing over here on the back side of this apple. It's a pretty sharp edge. So I'm going to tidy up, clean up that darkness there. Now's the time where I'm relying more on my charcoal pencils because the looser or larger blocks of compressed charcoal just don't give me that detail that I need in smaller areas like these. So obviously now that clean edge of the apple really pops a little bit stronger than it did before. And I could do that maybe over here where I really want the apple to contrast with some of its background. I was starting to lose this apple a little bit in the messiness of some of the fabric over here. So just cleaning up that edge a bit and making that contrast a little bit sharper. Keep in mind, I'm not really just straight up outlining. Very rarely are you going to see just a line work. What we're dealing with is edges of value. So one shade against another, which gives us the appearance of a line or edge. So this is about where I'm going to stop it here today. We've gotten pretty far with it, but again, I could sink a lot more time into this if I wanted to. But hopefully this is a good demonstration of how I begin the drawings, how I think about roughly the whole picture altogether, background, foreground, all kind of working at the same time to build up what feels like a pretty realistic scene.